Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. David Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. David is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hi, David, and welcome listeners to episode 219. And today we welcome team therapist Dr. Cai Chen from Tyler, Texas. Cai is a fourth-year psychiatric resident. He's worked in state hospitals, maximum security facilities, psychiatric units, and outpatient clinics. He feels comfortable working with children, adolescents, and adults. When Cai finishes his residency, he plans to open a private practice in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas and become team certified. We met Cai when he volunteered at David's most recent workshop. Actually, by the time this comes out, it's not his most recent workshop. It was a workshop held on October 11th on Feeling Great, Powerful Treatment for Depression. And we met Cai first when he sent us an endorsement regarding the Feeling Good podcast 187, which was on the awesome Atlanta therapy with Michael. So let me just read that, and then we can get Cai in person. He wrote us, "Hi, David, Michael, and Ty-Ann. This podcast episode helped me truly change my life. I thought I had things figured out before, but man, the work you three did that day crystallized my own social anxiety issues and gave me the courage to finally do some very hefty self-disclosure. I was in tears throughout the podcast and well after, even waking up in the middle of the night crying, knowing that I had to do the exact same thing that Michael had done. So I finally told all the people I knew on social media that I struggled with social anxiety and that my deepest fear was my negative feelings, inconveniencing people, hurting them, and showing them how I was being selfish by taking the spotlight. I also told everyone how all of these fears led to a lifetime of loneliness, rejection, and helplessness. I cried writing it all out because it finally felt like I was letting all of that go for the first time in my life. The responses I received from so many on social media, including people I hadn't heard from in years, was astonishing and so supportive. My social anxiety was completely shattered. Now I see the truth, that our feelings are an expression of our humanity, and the most honest, loving thing to do is to share them with people. I'll be damned if I'm going to tell myself anymore that my negative feelings inconvenience or hurt people. Screw whether I'm being selfish. I finally understand what you mean, David, that the problem was never that I had been inconveniencing, hurtful, or selfish. It's that I'm telling myself those things about me, and they're wrong, and that I shouldn't be that way. I share my feelings all the time now. The constant feelings of nervousness, unease, OCD, and panic attacks that I had before are gone. 99% of my days. I feel more human and myself than I've ever felt for the last 20 years. You should call it relearning how to be human therapy. God bless you, David, Ty-Ann, and of course, yourself, Michael. I'm truly in your debt. You're my own personal hero, Michael, and I wish I was there at the intensive to give you a big hug. I'm grateful, honored, overjoyed, and just so happy for the help you've all brought to me. It's making me tearful again. I love the work you've done, and I love you all. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Regards, Cai." And now we have Cai in person. Yay!
Yay! Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. To add to your intro, and then we'll let Rhonda lead us in this awesome and fun dialogue. Like it's kind of a dream for Rhonda and me to meet you in person, Cai. And I didn't realize until just a few minutes ago that you're actually a psychiatric resident. And that is so exciting to me. We've had a few psychiatrists learn team CBT. One of my earliest students was Matt May, at Stanford, and he has blossomed into one of the top team therapists in the world. And like yourself, he doesn't push meds very much, except for the occasional person who might need that for schizophrenia or bipolar 1 or something like that. And I'm just so proud of you, not only for the personal work you've done, but for the tremendous therapy skills you're developing. And to me, it's just music to my ears to always to me to say and knowable as great and to use that as a healing tool for others. So welcome to the show, and congratulations on your amazing accomplishments and the amazing career that you've got ahead of you. It's going to be really, really remarkable.
Yeah. So Cai, tell us what your experience has been with team and how you've learned it. One of the things that David and I were really excited about was when you sent the email about how you've trained yourself to be a team therapist. And I'm not going to give the hint about what it is you've done, so you can explain it. And then we have some other questions.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm just really grateful to finally be able to talk with both of y'all face to face. Rhonda, I've always really loved hearing your voice on the podcast. Really like a part of my day right now, and so as well as you, Dr. Burns. And I feel kind of nervous because like you guys really built me up. I was like, man, I don't really didn't say about that, but actually like September or so. At that time, I was supposed to have several therapy patients under my belt, but I was too nervous to get started because our therapy supervisor, her husband got sick with cancer, colon cancer. And so we didn't really have very much therapy supervision. And I knew that I couldn't just like jump in there and try to do therapy with patients if I didn't know what I was doing. So I was pretty desperate. And I was trying to find some source of something that would teach me how to do therapy very quickly. And I knew that I didn't want to read because I hate reading. It takes me too long. And I said, so I decided to try to look up podcasts. And I remember I was in the car. I was like, I need to find something that'll teach me how to do therapy, but I don't know which podcast will work. So I just typed into my phone app, therapy. And there were like a ton of different options that came up. And one of them was like psychology in Seattle, and another one was Team CBT, Feeling Good, which is y'all's podcast. And I was between the both of them, and I was like, I don't know what the heck Team CBT is, but there's a lot of episodes in here. Maybe let me just flip a coin and try to figure out which one I want. So the coin landed heads up. I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen to Feeling Good podcast. And once I got into that first episode with you, Dr. Burns and Fabrice, it kind of like really hooked me in because you were talking about at that time, like seeing really rapid results in therapy with patients. And I was like, that doesn't sound right to me, but it sounds like really good. Maybe I should keep on listening. And the more I listened, like the stuff about testing and empathy and agenda setting and methods, it's like, this all makes sense. And it's like, and what I really loved, especially in the empathy part, was like talking about like actual techniques to learn on in terms of like empathy. And so I really connected with that, and because no one ever really taught me how to do empathy, I just thought it was just something that you just kind of like intuit and you learn over time. And so it really appealed to me, like there were actual set techniques rather than just kind of like something like you eventually learn on your own. And so I just kind of took off from there. And I kept listening to the podcast, and then I finally decided to try out some of the therapy on some of my patients. after about a month or so of listening to podcasts. I was super nervous at that time. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And I tried my best to do the testing as much as I could, but I was very awfully like super embarrassed about handing it out to my patients, and especially like getting like the feedback on it. And like you said, when you do the testing, you're going to find out that all your patients will fail you at every single session. And that's what happened to me too. But then there was one podcast you had mentioned that I don't remember which one it was, but you mentioned that the best kind of way of learning was to do kind of like your own kind of work. And I was really hungry to learn as quickly as I could. And there were no teachers around me that I could easily access. So I said, well, what if I just start trying to use all these techniques on myself and see where I can go with that? And so I started doing that. I did a lot of daily mood logs on myself. And I started thinking to myself, like, well, how can I bring this more to life? And so I started like role playing with myself. I played my own therapist, and I played myself, and I practiced doing 5 secrets on myself. I practiced doing agenda setting on myself, and I practiced using the methods on myself. And it was really kind of strange and awkward doing it, but the more I've done it, the like it's kind of become like a second sort of it's kind of become like a very comforting thing for me, just knowing that I can do that for myself now. And I've done like hundreds of daily mood logs on myself. I've done a ton of confronting my own self-defeating beliefs, and I've also done a lot of relationship journals on myself as well. And you're absolutely right that in order to really know what it's like to heal your patients, you have to know what it's like for yourself. And there are a lot of things about me that I didn't even know that were there, like achievement addiction and perfectionism, and a lot of the anxiety problems like emotophobia, anger phobia, and then there were like the stuff about love addiction, and there were also really painful things too, like sometimes like some of my negative thoughts would go towards the direction of feelings of like severe worthlessness and inferiority, and sometimes feeling like I was absolutely a useless person. And it was really hard to like see that in myself, but I knew it was true at that time, that's how I felt about myself. But with time and with a lot of experience and just constantly going over it over and over again, I've gotten better at it, and it's been such a life-changing experience for me overall, because especially with that those things about anxiety, my social anxiety was one of my biggest issues that caused a lot of depression. And I remember one of your podcasts about talking with a guy with who had really bad social anxiety, and how he kind of like got really he kind of froze up when he went to, like, he was shopping and went to the cashiers, and there's a cute girl over there, and he saw her, and then like he got really freaked out and didn't say anything. That happened as well. It like happened to me like about 5 or 6 months ago, right before I emailed you guys about the therapy with Mike. And it was all pretty much the same exact thoughts. And I was just so mortified. I was like, what the heck? What's wrong with me? Why would that happen to me? But I did all the techniques. I used the what if technique, which I found out what were my core fears. I didn't even know that they were my core fears of feeling like I was being selfish or wasting people's time. And I confronted them and changed them using the methods and agenda setting. But really just listening to that super awesome podcast with Michael and just hearing it in action made me realize that I couldn't just think about and try to change these things in my head. I actually had to go out there and do something about it. And it was very, very powerful for me. It was very moving for me. It was like a huge spiritual kind of experience for me at that time. I really did cry quite a lot. And as I was listening to you, Rhonda, reading all that stuff, I was like, oh my God, did I really write all that? It's just amazing, kind of like a miracle. But when I look back on it, I was like, oh my God, that miracle did happen, and I was able to make that happen. I'm just so grateful for you, Dr. Burns, and you, Rhonda, and all the team therapists. And I've really decided and committed to myself that this is really something that I want to do for the rest of my life, to bring people this kind of joy and this kind of happiness, because I don't think I ever would have been able to do it without these tools. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And
yeah, there's so much that you say that Rhonda and I can comment on. I can't even remember all the exciting things you just said, but just what you said here at the end was so huge that I didn't really, figure out how to do this until, toward the end of my career. The cognitive therapy helped me a lot, but it wasn't like a super conductor like team CBT, where you see this rapid stuff. And for me, when I was a resident, I just dreamed. I said, I wonder if you could ever get so good, like an NBA player. You shoot baskets and you can see the ball go through the hoop. So if you work at it, you'll get better and better. But we weren't measuring anything in those days, so it was just a pipe dream. But over time, it's become a reality. And like you, when I work with someone and see them recover in a single session, I'd love to hear you talk about the experience along those lines you had recently. But it's a euphoric experience, and then you'll have the ability to do this for the whole rest of your life, over and over again, as you get better and better, and you'll be seeing people recover faster and faster. And it's just mind-boggling. And you said spiritual. To me, when you get into that type of super rapid transformation of a person that you personally experienced, now I've delivered to one of your patients, it goes beyond psychology, and is best talked about with more spiritual images like Buddhism, like the death of the self, and the great death, the four great deaths of the self, and things like that. Rhonda's actually trying to get the Dalai Lama on a podcast. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we have a kind of remote shot at it. I think
it's very low probability.
You sent him a copy of I'm Feeling Great, right?
Yes, I did.
So if he reads the four deaths of the self, maybe he'll want to be on. But yeah, I mean, what you said was just so fantastic. Can you tell us about? And I'm probably interrupting you, Rhonda, because I'm sure you have tons of questions. But can you tell us about that patient experience you had recently that you wrote us about?
Yeah. So
without divulging identities or stuff like that, but just in general terms.
Yeah, one of the patients that I've been working with has very, very severe depression, and
Cai, is this in an outpatient clinic?
An outpatient clinic, yes. Yeah. Thank you for helping me clarify that. And so I've been seeing her for quite a while, and her symptoms have always been extremely severe. At every single session on the brief mood survey, every negative feeling was just at its maximum. The depression was max. The suicidal urges was max. Anxiety was max. Anger was max. Positive feelings were completely low, and relationship satisfaction was always down into the drain. And I didn't even know if it was possible to get her to a sense of joy or a sense of self-esteem. And we finally were able to converge on one of her daily mood logs, and use the techniques, the agenda set, actually the positive reframing. She had told me that I was one of the first people in her entire life to ever try to help her see the positive side of all her negative feelings and her thoughts and her suffering. And it was just completely mind-blowing to her. And I just kept on asking her, is this true? All these things that we've written down. She's like, yeah, it is. But no one ever really wants to acknowledge all this stuff. So then we jumped into the methods, and I remember on one it was a 2-week period. The first week I only had enough time to work with her on one negative thought, but it almost completely annihilated all her symptoms. After that one negative thought went away, it went all the way down to 0%. I just used the identify the distortions, the straightforward technique, and the double standard paradox, and she completely blew that negative thought away, and she felt really good, and her depression went all the way down to 2. I think her suicidal urges went pretty close to 0. But then the second week after that, when we revisited her daily mood log, went and had more time to go over the rest of her negative thoughts, it just completely dropped all of her symptoms down to 0. Now, it took me a long time. I'm not very good at this myself. It took close to about 2.5 or 3 hours, but I was so proud of her, and because by the end of it, she was just completely annihilating all of her negative thoughts. I didn't need to do very much at that point. She was just giddy. She felt like she was euphoric. She told me she felt like she was floating off the ground. So that was a really fantastic and amazing experience. And it was just really beautiful seeing that. Now, she did relapse after that, and that is something that we have to, that we're going to continue to work, because I'm still trying to continue to learn with the team model. There were quite a few things that I had forgotten to do, but just the fact that we were able to do it, it just gave her, I think it gave her a lot of hope, because finally she was like, something is actually working after all these years. So it was just a really awesome experience, and I'm certain, like David, Dr. Burns, you've seen plenty of times, Rhonda, you've seen that plenty of times, but it's one thing to just hear about it and think about it, but it's an entirely different thing to see it with your own eyes and to hear it from the person you're working with.
That's what Michael said, that one at the Atlanta intensive. He approached me before, said I might volunteer to be your patient, but I've had this crippling shyness, my whole life, and I can't even feel close to my sons. I get anxious around them, and I'm so ashamed. And he says, I think I might be able to be helped, but you talk about complete recovery and going to a euphoric state. He says, I know that couldn't possibly happen for me. And then it did. And it was so fantastic. But at the workshop I did with Jill recently, I can't remember, did we do relapse prevention training at the end with externalization of voices?
Yes.
Yeah. That's so crucial, because when someone has that rapid recovery, I try to jump on them immediately and just say, now that you're euphoric, that's the good news is you'll be the happiest you've ever been. And the even better news is you're going to relapse terribly within a few hours or a few days or a few weeks. And people say, well, why is that even better news? I said, because I can show you how to pop out of those relapses quickly. And once you've had a relapse and popped out of it, then you'll know that you're good for the rest of your life, that you'll always have the tools. And that is so important, because then if you prepare them and then they relapse, they say, oh, the doctor told me this was going to happen. He told me what to do. What tools to use, so why don't I use them? And I found that to be so important and so helpful for people, because there's no such thing as never-ending euphoria. We all hit bumps in the road of life. Almost every day something happens, and I'll get anxious or upset about it. And but I know how to pop out of these things. In fact, for me now, I don't hardly even need to use the daily mood log anymore. I just tell myself, well, David, you feel like you're hopelessly screwed for the rest of your life. But you know for a fact you'll be feeling high and happy in a few days. So don't sweat it. And then I say, oh, no, that couldn't happen. This is the truth about me. I really am no good, and my life is really screwed. And then I say, now, come on, David, you're always thinking that way. You know for sure you're going to be feeling incredible in 2 or 3 days. And then I say, okay, that's true. And then it happens. But that's been so important in my own personal growth, just to know no one's entitled to feel happy all the time, and also the fractal concept that, like with your patient, when she gets upset, it'll just always be the same thing over and over again. And if you even, does she record herself doing like externalization of voices and stuff, talking back to her own thoughts?
No,
So I
she
have them
actually
record that and then listen to it when they relapse.
yeah, we haven't been doing that, but I've asked her actually as homework to go ahead and figure out a way to get it recorded, because I'm doing primarily like teletherapy by like telephone.
I see.
Yeah,
I
so
see.
so it makes it a little difficult to kind of record that. But
I see.
But there's a way. There's a way to record that. There is a way to record it on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
On her phone. I'm sure you guys could figure it out, especially you must be really,
yeah.
No,
that's
just
for
to
sure.
underline it, just is so helpful to listen to sessions after.
I'm going to leave this for 30 seconds because I ran out of paper. I got so excited. I used up all my notes here. I'll be back in like 1 second.
But Cai, some of the things,
you guys keep talking.
You've said so many things that are really fascinating, but I wonder what it was like for you as a therapist, that when you worked with her for 2.5, 3 hours, and she started out, suicidal and like a 20 out of 20 of depression and anxiety and feeling, so much pain for years. And then to work with her, you said it took a long time, but it took 2.5, 3 hours. Doesn't sound to me like a long time, to get to the place where she felt hope, and she got her scores down to 0 over 2 sessions. And what is that like for you? Like, I know you're beginning your career as a psychiatrist, and a lot of people in the field talk about how burnt out they are and how difficult it is to continue hearing these horrible stories that people have experienced in their life. But what was that like for you to experience this kind of treatment with her?
Oh, well, it was wonderful. It was like, oh my God, it's actually working. I didn't even think this would I would finally be able to make it work for anybody. I thought I could only make it work for myself. So throughout the entire thing, at first I was very nervous at the beginning, especially doing some of the agenda setting. But I had this feeling, I had a really strong hunch. I was like, I know we're heading in the right direction. And as she started knocking down her negative thoughts, especially with the double standard technique, it was very powerful for her. She said that for the first time, it was like, it makes so much sense to, because I'm so harsh on myself, but I can talk with other people very kindly. After that moment, all of my anxiety just completely disappeared. I was like, okay, we're good. Let's just keep going. And she just, it just kind of felt like both her and I were on the same wavelength and the same level. And it's like, it just felt really, I don't want to say easy, but it just felt really easy because I didn't really feel like I was doing very much. Like, I would help her every once in a while when we got to externalization of voices, to model like 1 or 2 responses. But after that, she got really good at it, and she didn't really need me after that. I could just say her negative thoughts to her, and she would say them. She would respond back in a very powerful and positive way. And I do want to attach a very quick kind of disclaimer. Even though I did get that very impressive response with her, that after that week, I did make a very big error with her. I messed up in terms of empathy and agenda setting, and then she turned in an evaluation of me that was like a 0 on the empathy score, and it was like, this is the lowest I've ever gotten. I told I told her the same thing you had said at one point, David. It's like, even Hitler could get at least a 5. I got a 0.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was so painful because I was like, but I realized it was like I had these really high expectations after that moment in time, and I had to really work on that for myself afterwards, and then rebuild the therapeutic relationship with her. It was so painful, but doing that, we're back on the same page, and I realized that even though she's gotten that really impressive response, that there have been a lot of other things that we haven't really delved into that that do cause her negative thoughts and feelings to come back that I didn't even know about. So it's going to take a little bit more work, but I'm just so encouraged by the fact I responded like that. It's just like, I never would have believed it to be possible with the history she gave me of like decades of depression and just tons of antidepressants and like several ECT rounds and nothing ever helping her. It's and she was definitely very surprised and awestruck as well. And so even though it's been a struggle for her and for me too, it's she's actually one of my more committed patients. I don't think I've seen a patient who's worked quite as hard as she has, despite her severe symptoms. And I'm just so proud of her and everything. So, so yeah, I had a really great response, but I kind of let it get to my head after that.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened to either of you.
Well, I think, for sure.
I screw up all the time, and I went on a hike with someone who I had previously worked with, and she went into enlightenment like your patient, and then on this hike, she wanted help with the problem at work. And I thought I knew what the problem was, so I skipped empathy and agenda setting.
Yeah.
And went right into methods.
No.
And she's kind of this polite person. So by the end of the hike, the Sunday hike, I thought I was just better than French fries and had blown her mind. And then I discovered she was not only angry with me, she was livid with rage. Yeah. And never wanted to see me again. And it was very humiliating, and I was concerned for her and mad at myself, and I had a couple sleepless nights. But then I kept in my mind, your worst therapeutic failure is your greatest success in disguise. And I said, could that be true here? And eventually I told her, through email, I'd really love to talk about what happened. I failed you, and I can see you're extremely angry with me, and for good reason. And I'm a really safe person to get angry with. And, and if you would give it a shot, I think it could be a tremendous thing. And I approach her with humility and genuine, feeling. And then she courageously decided to do that. And then we just had a tremendous dialogue, and it deepened our relationship.
Yeah.
And then now she's just become a superstar at work. I've heard, through the grapevine, people know her, said she's just blazing, now. And but that happens, and that's, I think, part of team. And you have to be willing to die for your ego to die, and realize that you can screw up and make mistakes. I just make mistakes all the time, even in my talks and workshops. I gave a talk the other day, and it was just actually for free at this workshop this fellow put together, and all I had was about 35 minutes. And then someone in the feedback said, boy, if you were humble, a little bit on the humble side, you'd be 4 times more effective. And it really kind of hurt, because I realized, I was projecting some arrogance or something like that, and I got slammed. But the thing I love about the team model, it gives us a chance to grow along with our patients. One other thing
can I make a comment about that too, Dave? I think what you're talking about is the strength and the two of you together are talking about the strength and the beauty of testing. Yeah. And that, Cai, after that session, that was just so enervating for both of you. I could imagine you, and I know I've done this too, just kind of blithely going along thinking, oh, I'm so great, or the relationship's so great. And and yet you would never have realized that there is that sort of that lapse in the relationship with your patient. And so using the evaluation of therapy session form, when she's actually giving you that feedback, allowed you to repair that, when, therapists that don't use testing wouldn't even know that was going on maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for me, I don't even think I had to give her the evaluation at that time to know that she was really pissed off at me, because I did make a humongous error with her. I had kind of jumped into like agenda setting with like the gentle ultimatum with her. She was extremely rejection sensitive, and she felt really discounted and just really hurt after that. And I was like, but I was doing the right technique. But that kind of brings up another really good point about team that I keep learning over and over and over again, is that, and I love what you said, Dr. Burns, that greatest therapeutic failures will end up turning into our greatest successes, because I've failed on this so many freaking times. I think I feel like I'm doing something like correctly, but then I have to take a step back and realize that I'm just using it in a very formulaic way, and I'm just throwing compassion and empathy completely out of the window while trying to do these techniques. And like behind that is kind of like a kind of compulsion, obsession to try to like be impressive and try to really try to help. And of course that never really helps, and just kind of turns the other people off. And I failed a lot of times, and really the best teachers have always been my patients.
Way better than the supervisors. I don't want to say anything nasty, but I had some very well-intended supervisors during my residency, but I mean, we weren't measuring anything. And all they said is just encourage your patients to cry all session. And that's what they did. And that's all that ever happened. But I have two other quick points here that I just want to mention in passing. One thing that you've helped me is, your hunger and your commitment to learn, both personally and as a shrink, has been the key to your skyrocketing speed of personal enlightenment, really is what it is, and then developing fantastic therapeutic skills. And that's what I mentioned in my Tuesday group at Stanford just a couple weeks ago, inspired by you. And I mentioned you that you really have to be hungry, because some of them I think sometimes go, I can just drop into the Tuesday group from 5 to 7 p.m. and it's fun and interesting and that'll be enough. But it's not. You and both from a patient perspective and from a therapist growing perspective, you really have to commit yourself to it. This is like learning to play piano. And it's not enough to go and talk to your music teacher once a week. You've got to put in the time and the hours, and the more time and hours you put in, the faster you'll learn, and the better you'll become. And that's why you're have not only developed personally in a mind-blowing way, but a genuine and real way, but also why you're becoming one of the young greats in psychiatry. And but there's a price to be paid, and you have to decide: do I want to be able to have these tools, because effort is involved, time is involved, and then, as you know, and as I know, as Rhonda knows, personal pain will be sometimes an important part of it, and because you'll fail sometimes with your patients, and the feedback scales, the empathy scale and the helpfulness scale that they take at the end of every session, the patients will put it right in your face. And some therapists say, oh, patients won't be honest. I don't want to use your scales. Patients will just tell me what they think I want to hear. But it's not that way at all. It's the opposite. The patients are going to tell you what you don't want to hear. And the question isn't, will the patients be honest, but do you, the therapist, have the courage to deal with the patient's honesty? And then the other note I had here, we may not have time for this today, but I thought it might be fun at some point to demonstrate externalization of voices with one of your old negative thoughts or something like that.
Yeah. So in terms of commitment, what I can really say is that if you want to learn how to use all these techniques and be extremely effective and learn very quickly, you're absolutely right, Dr. Burns. You have to pay a very heavy price. Like there are some times where I remember early on, there were sometimes I was struggling quite a lot. I would have to do a daily mood log like 2 or 3 times out of the day. And sometimes I would spend upwards like 2 to 3 hours. I know you're not supposed to do like more than 20 minutes of homework, but I was like, I need to work on this because it keeps coming back and I don't know why. So it'll take a lot of time and commitment. And I had a rule for myself that anytime that I felt kind of upset or depressed or anxious or any of those things, or any time that my patients had really slammed me in the evaluation, I need to do something. I need to do a daily mood log, or I need to do a relationship journal, no exceptions. Even if I have to skip out on dinner or lunch or something like that, I just go ahead and do it because I felt it was super important for me to get through all of that and as close to one sitting as possible. The other part of it is just being okay with the fact that even though I'm going to learn things, I'm still going to have many days where I'm going to doubt myself, and not giving myself permission to not giving myself permission to kind of let that keep brewing and brewing, but to just sit down and work on it regardless of what I was doing. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of time. And honestly, there's many moments where I was like, why did I spend 2 or 3 hours on this? But then I look at my daily mood log, I look at the things that I went over with my patients, and it's like, yeah, this is why I did it, because I feel a lot better now. And it feels like I've been able to change quite a few of these things. And the podcast has been a very strong resource throughout all of my journey and learning team. I've been listening to it upwards of 2 times already, but even on the second time listening through it, there are things that I pick up that I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really understand what's going on at that time. What that really meant, but now I can apply that over here. Now I finally understand that now, and let me see if I can give that a try. And so the tools that are offered through the podcast, basically for free, which I think is just really freaking amazing, have been extremely helpful for me. And I think that practically anyone who really wants to learn how to do this can learn and learn very quickly, but definitely it'll take a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and willingness to suffer quite a bit of pain and doubt. So I totally agree with you on that, Dr. Burns.
Oh.
Well, Cai, that is so inspiring to hear that you would do a daily mood log or relationship journal every day, even more than 2 or 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. And that it sounds like you're doing it from a sense of strength and commitment to yourself. And actually, I just had a patient yesterday we're struggling with her process resistance, or her unwillingness to do a daily mood log, because she said doing a daily mood log reminds her that she's feeling unwell, and she doesn't like being reminded of that.
Yeah.
Hearing you talk about doing a daily mood log or relationship journal is sort of reminding you of your commitment to yourself and, learning and feeling and getting to a place of feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. It's so inspiring.
Well, thank you. And I really identify with your patient, because whenever I do a daily mood log on myself, I had to do one like 2 days ago, actually, on like some sort of dating issue that I've been having, which I thought was gone, but it's actually still there. I really identify with your patient, because every single time it comes up, it's super painful. And I just ask myself, why am I putting myself through all this? Why would I? Maybe this time it won't work. Maybe this time I really am kind of like going to keep on feeling super depressed and really down. There's really nothing that I do. There's no way that I can turn this around. really the price for some happiness, especially if you're feeling super down and depressed or doubtful or not feeling at your best, would be that you're going to have a little bit of work in order to get to that joy. It's a lesson that I've been learning over and over again, that nobody's, and when you're feeling really upset and depressed, you're not entitled to feel super happy. You're going to have to put in a little bit of work. But it's always painful every time. And I totally think that I totally identify with your patient on that.
Yeah, one of the times when Beck criticized me once when I was a resident, and I got very upset and had all these negative thoughts that I was a terrible human being. And I remember going home on the train just feeling horrible. He just criticized the way I'd handled a patient who wasn't paying his bill in the clinic. And apparently I didn't say it effectively, but I can remember that I had these thoughts, I'm a terrible human being, and I have no future in psychiatry. I have no talent or ability. I'll lose my medical license. And I remember that those thoughts seemed so true.
Yeah.
And I resisted writing them down on a piece of paper for about an hour and a half. I tried jogging for 6 miles. I ran really fast. It didn't help at all. And then I said, well, David, write your thoughts down. And I said, oh, no, my thoughts are real. That wouldn't do any good. And I just thought just the same way you described, and my patients thought. And then when I wrote them down and looked at the distortions, I saw how ridiculous they were, and I was able to turn it around in about 5 minutes. And then I saw the patient the next day and apologized, and we had a tremendous therapy session. But it's that idea that Freud said something to the extent it's so amazing that humans have to be depressed to see the truth about themselves.
Yeah.
But that's what depression is like. You see this awful truth about yourself, you think. And it's like being in a hypnotic trance.
Yeah.
Because you really believe these things, so much so that you think it's ridiculous to try to challenge them by writing them down on a piece of paper or identifying the distortions or whatever.
Yeah. That's so true, because I felt 100% depressed just like 2 or 3 days ago, and it was at a rehab that I'm volunteering at right now, and I told myself after going through, I had to leave the office and go into my car and like type all this stuff down because I was sobbing and crying like a little baby.
Do you remember what you were telling yourself?
Oh yeah, actually I have that all typed down somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. The things that I was telling myself was okay. What was I telling myself? Oh yeah, I was telling myself because I just saw like a Facebook relationship status for one of the girls that I was interested in before, and she was in a relationship with someone, and I started feeling super sad, down, and depressed. And one of the things I was telling myself is like, this proves that I'm never going to find anybody special for me. Nothing, and I believe that 100%. Another thing I tell myself is there's something inherently wrong with me because I haven't found a lifelong partner yet. I believe that 100%. And then I tell myself there's no point in trying anymore because I keep on screwing things up 100%.
You're going too fast for me. I got the first one. This proves I'll never find anyone special. And that's 100. And
yeah.
What was the second one?
The second one was there's something inherently wrong with me because I haven't found a lifelong partner yet.
Yeah. So many people can identify with these kind of thoughts. Right now, people listening to the show, there's hundreds of people right now who are saying, yeah, I have those thoughts. There's something inherently wrong with me because I haven't yet found a lifelong partner. And then what was the third one?
The third one was there's point in trying anymore because I keep screwing things up.
Yeah.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah. Do you want to do a little externalization of voices?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Now we have to explain that this is one of the more than 100 techniques that we use to combat negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is very, very aggressive. Well, do you want to do externalization of voices or double standard?
Let's go with externalization of voices.
Yeah, okay. And we're skipping empathy and agenda setting. Always a huge mistake. But, you want to try it anyway?
Yeah, luckily, I was able to turn it around for myself after about like an hour or so. So,
oh, cool.
I think I should be able to knock it out of the park.
Now, okay. I'm sure that'll be fun too. For the listeners, this is called externalization of voices. It's the first cognitive therapy technique I created when I was going to Beck's seminar in the 1970s to try to learn this. And one of us will play the role of the negative Cai, and the other will play the role of the positive Cai. So these will be the two parts of Cai kind of doing battle with each other. And Rhonda and David will be kind of a tag team. But would you like to be the positive Cai first or the negative Cai?
I'll be the positive.
The positive. Do you want to start out as the negative, Rhonda?
Sure.
And the negatives, we'll speak in the second person, you, like this proves you'll never find anyone special. Mm-hmm. But we're really Cai talking to Cai. We're not another person. And then there are several strategies that Cai can use to try to defeat us. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. So shall we say what the several strategies are, so that the listener knows?
We can mention them later.
We'll mention them later. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Cai, I'll start then. Cai, this proves you will never find anyone special.
And this one was kind of a tearjerker for me when I responded to it a couple of days ago. But a little bit of background: there was a girl that I dated named Taylor, and I really loved her, even though the relationship didn't last that long. So, response to that Taylor wasn't special, but that's why I really loved her. I'm sorry, I'm going to start crying again.
That's okay. You just go ahead and let those tears flow. That's what you did at the workshop, and everyone fell in love with you there.
I really loved her, even though she wasn't special. Oh God. I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great.
Yeah, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And thanks for giving us that background. It makes it so much easier to understand this technique.
And it shows your beautiful heart too.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, Taylor was someone I dated. She wasn't special, and I still loved her. And in fact, the fact that she wasn't was the exact reason why I loved her. So what you're saying is a bunch of bullshit.
Great. Now, who won?
Oh, I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
And how did you win huge? Just so our listeners can understand the meaning of what just happened.
Well, more so just kind of. I want to say acceptance. I'm not sure if it's really that, but it just feels like because I'm telling myself I'm never going to find anybody special for me. I was like, all the women that I've dated haven't been special, but I've loved every single one and I've appreciated every single one. And just having the opportunity to share myself and to love somebody else and to really have joy and connection. That's what's special, not finding anybody special.
Yeah, that's right. And I've often said, and this is what I learned from my cat, Obi. You're probably not familiar with Obi, or maybe you are.
Oh, I've seen Obi's picture in your book. Feeling great.
Yeah. It's dedicated to him. And he taught me when you no longer need to be special, life becomes special.
Yeah.
And how beautiful that you've learned that. And I can also remember in the workshop that you attended a few weeks ago, someone sent you an email later that had to do with your eligibility. You remember?
Yeah, I do. I thought it was really funny.
Tell us what it was, because it was so cool.
Oh, yeah. It's like was it Tyann that had sent it?
Yes, it was Tyann. That's right.
Yeah.
Good
Tyann
memory.
sent me a really thoughtful and very genuine email after the workshop where I started crying like a baby, and I'm doing it more often, and I think it's a good thing that I've been doing that more often. But she had mentioned that, oh, is this you, Cai? Are you the one that had emailed us earlier about that therapy set, Mike? Because she mentioned that she didn't judge me, and she said she had told Ann Crum, "My God, who's that handsome guy over there?" I was like, "Oh, that's funny." And then I said, like, maybe I can use this stuff whenever I'm going out dating and that kind of stuff.
Well, you will send me a photo to feature your podcast, and then we'll put in contact information. And you're not looking for patients until you open your practice in Dallas. But if there are some eligible young ladies there who fall in love with you, they'll be a way for them to contact you.
Because we're a team therapy podcast, and we're also a dating service.
Well, I'm blushing like crazy right now. Yeah, okay, that's
that's great.
But just to wait to reel back a little bit. So, Cai, what you did in that externalization of voices was a combination of finding acceptance, but also it was a counterattack. Like you attacked back at the negative thought.
Yeah.
So you used two strategies.
Yeah, we call that the CAT.
Right.
That's the third strategy, CAT, counterattack technique. So you've got self-acceptance, the acceptance paradox, self-defense, and then the counterattack technique. And those are the three big features of externalization of voices. Well, I want to thank you, Cai. My expectations were ridiculously and extraordinarily high, as were Rhonda's, and you did not disappoint. It's been just a wonderful hour with you. Maybe we can get you back under some other pretense for another podcast one of these days, because it was just so much fun. But we are so glad to know you and to experience your incredible heart, your brilliant mind, and it's just been your kindness, your generosity. It's just been an extraordinary experience. I'm just grateful that you exist. Is I guess the best way. Best way to say it.
Well,
yes, Cai, it was such a pleasure to have you here and to learn about your dedication and your commitment and how you learned to be a team therapist through listening to podcasts and practicing. You're like the Steph Curry of team therapy.
And also learned not only your personal recovery, but your personal enlightenment, because I think recovery is really the same as enlightenment that the Buddha had in mind 2,500 years ago. And it's great, just pure pleasure to see what you've been doing and to reap the tremendous benefits of your incredible and brilliant and heartfelt efforts.
Those are extremely kind words. I can only hope to be as brilliant and wonderful as say that. I hope that I did say something really spectacular today. You told me that I had to do that.
I'm sure you did. I can't remember what it was, but you snuck it in there somewhere. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. See you next time. This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this episode under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. The theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.